What's going on, everybody? It's Sacred Eagle, and today I'm going to talk about the strengths and weaknesses the Eagles have right now, and where I think they're going to focus the most in the draft at certain positions and whatnot. So, if you have any ideas or whatever, tell me your opinions down below. What you guys think the Eagles' strengths and weaknesses are. Where do you think they're going to target the most? Position-wise, offensive, defensive, whatever. Tell me in the comments where you think they're going to go in the draft. And yeah, let's get right down to it. So, strengths. I read an article. It was about a couple hours ago. I haven't had time to make the video until now. But this is my own take on it as well. It was on the strengths and weaknesses of the Eagles. And, bringing up some of the writer's own opinions and everything. I'm going to bring up my own opinions as well. So it's definitely going to be different. Tell me your opinions in the comments like I've said, and let's get down to it. First off, obviously the quarterback position is a strength for the Eagles. You have Carson Wentz, who played all 16 games of his rookie season. The first time any Eagles starting quarterback has done that since Donovan McNabb back in, 2009? Something along those lines, before we traded him to Washington, So that's big. And then bringing back a former Eagle that had a lot of success here before a certain somebody decided to trash the entire organization in 2015. You know who I'm talking about. Nick Foles, he's experienced. He's been through injury, he's been through success, he's been through decline. He's been all over the NFL in the past 2.5 years. For him to come back home to Philly with somebody who, one, reminds him of the guy that drafted him, Andy Reid, and two, to an organization where they're not looking for him to start, they just want him to mentor somebody, help him achieve the highest a potential that he can get. That's Carson Wentz, of course. Not to mention, he's a really reliable backup. Sorry for stuttering. He's a really reliable backup, and he can win games. We've seen him win big games before. I mean, he's in the Hall of Fame right now. His jersey is with Peyton Manning and a few others for tying the NFL record at 7 touchdowns in one game. I mean, that's pretty good. That's something to really look at. So strengths are clearly at the quarterback position. The weakness, number one weakness that I'm really going to pinpoint, there's a few actually, but this is number 2 on my list as the biggest weakness. That is your running back position. I've talked about it before. Ryan Matthews is not the solution. The Eagles have talked about cutting him whenever they can, and I've been saying this ever since the start of the offseason for the Eagles. They should cut him, either get some young guy in the free agency, or go after someone like Dalvin Cook, Joe Mixon, in the draft, round 2 or 3, depending on where they fall, of course. So that's a really big area they need to focus on. I made a video also last week on Wendell Smallwood and if he can be a reliable starter or not, knowing that Darren Sproles is not a 3-down back, and he's gonna, he's going to retire after the season. He's already confirmed, or not confirmed, but he's already talked about retiring after the season. He wants to retire with Philly, so we'll see how that goes. But running back position, they really need to look in the draft. And I know that they have their eye on somebody. We just don't know who it is yet. And we're going to find out in less than 3 weeks. Another weakness, before I get on to any more strengths, another weakness is your defensive ends. Now, this is a place that I haven't talked about that much. But the defensive end positions, they're not that strong. After losing Connor Barwin, I mean, something about it just doesn't scream that it's strong enough to me. And it's the same thing for another weakness that I'm going to get into later. Something about that position just needs more reinforcement. I know we got Chris Long, and I know it's just, we're going to need somebody younger. We're going to need somebody who will be able to play for us for more than just a year or two. Chris Long, I know he's a great player, and I know that he might have a lot of success here in 2017, 2018, however long he stays here. But we're going to need somebody younger to take on that position. Connor Barwin, he did great. Chris Long, I have high expectations, but we're going to need to move on and get somebody younger. I'm hoping that this year we actually draft a defensive end in like the 4th round. And hopefully managed to bring him up as a starter in his second, third year once he's ready. But we definitely need to look out at the defensive end position. Now, this is probably the most controversial part of this video. This is my complete, honest opinion. Strength, number two, rather. Number two, your strength. Wide receiver. Let me explain myself, okay? Look, I get what a lot of Eagles fans are saying. There are a lot of different Eagles fans that have a lot of different opinions. I'm one of those, I know, and I watch a bunch of other Eagles fans make their own videos, talk about how hyped they are for Alshon Jeffrey and Torrey Smith, how hyped they are for this wide receiver corps to finally get somebody that can give Carson Wentz the explosiveness, the plays that we want to see here in Philly. That's what we're hoping for in Alshon Jeffrey, Torrey Smith, and everyone else in the wide receiver group. But a lot of people are saying that we need to draft younger guys. We need to draft people that will be ascending for years to come. My personal opinion is that we can't draft any more wide receivers. One at the bare minimum this year. My personal opinion on that is because we have so much depth there. Now bringing in Alshon Jeffrey for a 1-year deal and Torrey Smith on 3 1-year deals. People also say that we got Alshon Jeffrey on a cheap deal. Yes, it was cheap, but that's not the only reason why he signed a 1-year deal. Not because of the cap salary or anything like that. Alshon Jeffrey could have went for a 5-year deal in Minnesota. He could have went to San Francisco with Kyle Shanahan, Pierre Garçon, and whoever else they get at quarterback there in San Francisco. He could have went to any other team for more money, for a bigger deal, but he went to Philly for a 1-year deal. Maybe it was to make him more valuable next year. Say he has a breakout season again. He goes and gets like 1,700 many or however many yards you want to give him. He gets it. He achieves it. 1,700, whatever. 15 touchdowns. Whatever estimate you want to give him. Say he does that. Say this season makes him one of the best wide receivers in the game. Maybe he might just make himself more valuable and go after another team like the Patriots or something that will offer him the money that he wants and go there, win a championship. Or he wants to prove his worth. He wants to come to a team that is dying to see a wide receiver of his caliber, of his skill level, of his skill sets, help bring this city a championship. Make Carson Wentz an MVP. That's something that I loved about him, listening to him talk during his press conferences and whatnot. He wants to make Carson Wentz an MVP. He wants to help this team win. He's not doing this for the money. He's not doing it for anything else. You can tell. He loves the city, or at least he doesn't mind the city. Because we can be a little crazy sometimes. And he wants to bring something to Philly that we haven't had in a while. And that is an explosive wide receiver that resembles kind of like a Terrell Owens type of play. I'm not going to go that far because Terrell Owens is his own level, basically. Like him, Randy Moss, a lot of those guys are on their own levels. But Alshon Jeffrey, he was one of the best at the position during the free agency, and the Eagles got him. And they want him, and he wants to prove his worth before deciding to come back here or go after another team for another deal to get a chance at a Super Bowl. Because that's the end goal, right? A Super Bowl. That's what I like from Alshon Jeffrey. Torrey Smith has the confidence in himself that he can come back after 2.5 lackluster seasons in San Francisco where he had no stable quarterback, no offensive line, no wide receiver help, and no defense. San Francisco has been a mess ever since he joined that team, and you're wondering why his numbers have plummeted down ever since he won a Super Bowl back in Baltimore? It's a completely different atmosphere in San Francisco right now. San Francisco now is starting to find itself a little bit. But when Torrey Smith was there before he came to Philly, that place was a mess. And I don't blame him for wanting to get out of here, come to Philly, and hope for a new beginning with a third and maybe final team. Who the hell knows? And then you have Jordan Matthews. Jordan Matthews is a guy who he's not been injured that often. He got injured last year during the end of the season, during the Giants game. Yes, he did. He got injured. That happened. But he hasn't been injured that often in his career. And you've seen how well he's played in the slots his first 2 years here. And then last year, he played pretty well as a number one, which we all know he's not our number one wide receiver. He's better off in the slots, and he knows that, and our coaches know that. I'm pretty certain that should be a #1 reason why they went after Alshon Jeffrey and another guy like Torrey Smith in the free agency, to give Jordan Matthews what he wants and to be comfortable where he is, and that's where he is in the slot. And then you have the young guys, Dorial Green-Beckham, Nelson Aguilar, the two guys that I'm not so sure about, Paul Turner, Bryce Treggs, and then Rashad Bailey in the practice squad. You know, I have high hopes for him. I have high hopes for Paul Turner. We just need to give Paul Turner a lot more opportunity. And then Nelson Aguilar, DGB, this is their last chance. Preseason is their last chance. I'm being flat out honest with you. But aside from all the doubts, you really need to look at it, and you need to understand the depth that the Eagles have built at wide receiver. It's big. It's good. 27 and 28-year-olds are your oldest wide receivers. One of them has been claimed one of the best wide receivers in the past couple of years. The other one is one of the faster wide receivers in the past couple of years who can still run. Give them a chance. You know, don't just throw them to the side in offseason just because you think the Eagles are trying to win just for 2017. I don't know what they're trying to do. Maybe they are just trying to win for 2017, but I have hope that this will all work out. And that is why I have wide receiver as a strength in my eyes. Another strength, before I move on to the weakness of the defense, of course, because, you know, we have more weakness on defense than we do offense. A strength on offense, our offensive line. Can you not, like, come on, that's obvious, because the depth that we have there, that's one thing. Two, we have 2 Pro Bowlers, and we just have a lot of guys that have the potential to be big-time players. And I know the one area of concern will be the left tackle when Jason Peters is gone. We're going to need a center whenever we trade Jason Kelce. Clearly, he's going to be back for 2017 unless we pull off another move that ends up trading him a week before the season starts like we did Sam Bradford. But hey, that worked out, didn't it? Who knows? But our offensive line, not an issue at all. I'm not at all concerned unless if Jason Peters completely tears up his quads, unless if Jason Kelce completely tears up his ACL. Whatever happens, happens. But right now, that's a strength. Our weakness on defense, going back to defense, we all know corners, so I'm not really going to focus on corners or our secondary in general. A weakness that we have is linebacker, and we talked about linebacker before. Michael Kendricks doesn't really fit the system. Jordan Hicks is really our only consistent guy. He's becoming the leader of that linebacker group. And in the end, we just need somebody to take over from Michael Kendricks. We need some more depth there. That's basically it. So the draft could come in handy at getting a linebacker to help us in the future. So I would really look out for that if I were Philly. And lastly, well, I don't know if this is lastly, but our strength for the defense is our defensive line, especially with the additions of Chris Long and Timmy Jernigan a couple of days ago. Our defensive line is stacked. The depth is crazy there, and it looks really strong going alongside Fletcher Cox, Vinny Curry, all the guys that we have there. The rotations will be great. I feel like everyone's going to be fresh off the bat and everything like that. It's going to work out really well in my opinion. So we'll see how that goes. I'm trying to think besides corner if I missed any spots. Special teams is a strength because it's been the best one since like 2013. Like, I don't even need to talk about that. But in the end, guys, I know it's gonna be a lot different, and I can't wait to talk with you guys about this offseason, about the future of the Philadelphia Eagles. Tell me in the comments down below. What do you think about our strengths and our weakness? Do you disagree with me on anything? Do you agree with me on anything? Where do you think the Eagles are going to target the most in the draft? Do you think we're going to target defensive or offensive? Do you think we're going to get a wide receiver? Do you think we're going to get a lot of linebackers? Tell me whatever you think in the comments down below. And yeah, that's basically it. Subscribe if you're new and all that good stuff. And I'll see you all in the next video where I talk about most likely the Philadelphia Eagles and the draft coming up in less than 3 weeks. So please drop a like, all that good stuff. And I'll see you all in the next video. Have a good day, guys. Fly, Eagles, fly.